This podcast is on photosynthesis and respiration, so please write that as your heading with today's date. Okay, first we're going to tackle the topic of photosynthesis, which we've touched on a little bit already, in that it's related to the carbon cycle. However, we're going to look at this a little more specifically and see why exactly it is related to the carbon cycle. So the first question we're going to ask is who? Who participates in photosynthesis? The answer to that is plants, algae, and even some bacteria. Basically anything that has these chloroplasts, these special cell structures that can take the sun's energy and use it to make food. Second question is why? Why do these organisms need to go through photosynthesis? Well, as I said, they need to make food. Their food is called glucose, which is actually a sugar that they use for energy. So the whole purpose of photosynthesis is to make this glucose. Our last question is how. And for that we're going to look at what is actually an equation, because photosynthesis is a chemical reaction, and see how we get glucose out of the different parts of the equation. So this is the reaction for photosynthesis. Now you remember that each reaction has some reactants and some products, so we're going to start with the reactants, what we have to put into the reaction. It's easiest to think about this in terms of what do you need to make a plant survive? Well, a plant needs water, H2O. It also needs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. These are our reactants, okay, the things we mix together to get photosynthesis started. Plants also need sunlight. Okay, in order to get this whole reaction going, sunlight is kind of like the jump start to get the water and carbon dioxide moving and doing what they need to do. The arrow is in a reaction or in an equation to show what the reactants turn into. So the water and the carbon dioxide, with the help of sunshine, are going to form C6H12O6, which is our glucose or our sugar. So there's that main product that we needed to get out of photosynthesis. You'll notice it has carbon in it from the carbon dioxide, hydrogen in it, as well as oxygen in it. So we're seeing some of the same elements. It also produces as a byproduct or a waste product O2 or oxygen gas. So the main goal of this particular reaction is to get our carbon dioxide. Okay, so the main goal is to get that out. But we also make, not to get the carbon dioxide, glucose. Okay, so our main goal is to get this glucose out of the equation. But it also makes some oxygen gas what the plants give off, as I said, as kind of a waste product. Okay. You will want to have this equation in your notebook, so make sure you're recording all this as we go along. Oh, and the carbon dioxide and the water being the reactants, when they form together at the end of the equation, they've made products. So glucose and the oxygen are considered the products of photosynthesis. Now on to cellular respiration. Again, we'll ask the same questions. Who participates in cellular respiration? The answer to this is almost all living organisms. So what does that mean? That means us as humans have to go through cellular respiration. This is not breathing. This is something else that happens inside our cells. Plants have to go through cellular respiration. Bacteria have to go through cellular respiration. Fungi have to go through cellular respiration. So, we're talking about just about every living thing here. There are some types of bacteria that do not have to do this, but they're a very small group of them. We're not going to talk about them a whole lot. Okay, our next question is, why? Why do organisms, all these millions of organisms on the planet, need to go through this reaction of cellular respiration? Well, this is how we make our energy. Okay, the energy we make in our cells is called ATP. Stands for adenosine triphosphate, but you can just remember it as ATP, and this is the energy needed by cells to survive. So everything that's made up of cells, which is every living thing on the planet pretty much, needs to make ATP through cellular respiration. This is how we make our muscles work. This is how we make our brain do its thing. This is how a little tiny amoeba cell can get around in water. Okay, this is how all organisms get their energy, or their ATP, is through cellular respiration. Our last question is how. again, we're going to look at a chemical reaction to see how this happens. And you'll notice that a lot of the same materials that are used in photosynthesis are also involved in cellular respiration. So let's look more closely at that. A reaction for cellular respiration, again, we're going to start with some reactants, what we have to mix together. And we've got C6H12O6 turning up again. Hopefully you remember what that is. Okay, that C6H12O6 is our glucose. So we know plants make glucose, so they have that real handy to use for this reaction. Where do we get our glucose from? The things we eat. Okay, the plants we eat, the animals we eat. All of those materials can be broken down into glucose, which we use in this reaction. The other thing we need is oxygen. Okay, how do we get the oxygen we need from this for this reaction? From breathing. Okay, we bring it in from the air into our lungs and then into our blood supply. So this is why we breathe. Okay, cellular respiration is not the process of breathing, but we do provide the oxygen for it by breathing. All right, again, we've got an arrow that shows us that these reactants are going to be turned into something new, our products. And that new set of molecules is 3 of them in this case. First of all, ATP, there's our number 1 product for cellular respiration. That's our energy. Okay, we're going to mark that down. There's our energy there. But besides the ATP, we also have some waste products that we give off as well. Remember, the plants gave off oxygen as their waste product and carbon dioxide. We give off water and carbon dioxide as our waste products. So they're just byproducts that are made by making the ATP. Again, of course, it's the ATP we really care about. That's what we're really interested in. The water and carbon dioxide the body gets rid of in various ways. That's the end of the Cellular Respiration and Photosynthesis podcast. Make sure you've got all of the who's and why's and how's recorded so that you have a good idea of how this works for our investigation that we're going to start soon.